What is good, my great people? I recorded this video once and my computer decided not to save it, so we're back for round 2. Except for you, it's round 1, and Behemoth is ready to get the job done. Today I want to talk about franchises. Sadly, Evolve is not a franchise, although they did have a stage 2. It's kind of like a pseudo-sequel, if we want to be a little generous to it. Not quite, but there's a lot of games that this generation we're totally MIA, and I really hope, as we're 6 weeks away from the next generation, that some of these franchises make a return. So smash that like button if you love Evolve, and let me know in the comments down below which of these vanishing IP you wish would make a comeback. This generation was a very high quality one, and we saw the expansion of gaming and genres in ways that we never did before. Scale and scope ballooned, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse, but what's interesting is that some of my favorite franchises and my favorite series from the 360 PS3 era didn't ever appear on PS4 and Xbox One. And it's crazy, because if you had told me that, hey, you're not going to get Dead Space, Splinter Cell, Prince of Persia, Portal, Left 4 Dead, BioShock, Skate, and more, I would have said you're crazy. At least half of those are going to come out. And yet none of them did. What's going on, everybody? It's GhostRobo. Hope you're having a fantastic day and enjoying this Evolve. I wish Evolve 2 would have seen the light of day this generation. Maybe next generation, maybe never again. Who knows? Back 4 Blood seems to be delayed or in some nebulous state of maybe it's coming out. We don't have anything like this. And Evolve, is really unique. It's a mechanic that I think set a completely different path for this generation that then was about-faced, and everyone decided to play Battle Royale. And don't get me wrong, there's quality in games like Fortnite and Apex Legends. They're just not for me. As a single-player gamer, as someone who favors mechanics over everything, as someone who does not need nor want to play with 10,000 other people and would honestly prefer to play solo, I don't like where we're headed. But alas, I realize the popularity, and I know that with ballooning budgets, we need more people to play games, and part of me wishes that they would just slim the scope down. Not every game needs to be 100 hours. Not every game needs to have a million side quests. I say that as I'm super excited for Cyberpunk 2077, which is about to be a game the size of Detroit. Evolve, why do I love it? If it's multiplayer focused, it's because the mechanics are so strong. Right? It's because the mechanics are so strong and the idea is simple. Be a big monster and try to do damage for about 10 to 20 minutes. I like that idea. And I think the act of being a big monster and surviving and enduring with a big health bar is far more fun than it is to go and get one-shotted in a battle royale and have to restart your progress, because at the end of the day, being a soldier in a battle royale isn't that thrilling. What's thrilling about a BR is winning. What's thrilling about Evolve is playing. At least for me, that's the way I see it. But let's get back to these franchises. Dead Space, love that guy. And he just didn't show up this generation. Some would argue that the game and the series was wearing itself thin and running out of ideas by Dead Space 3, but I disagree. I kind of like the more action-y approach they took, and I appreciated the blend of horror and third-person shooter. I thought Dead Space 3 was a fine game, and I think with the new power of PS4 and Xbox One, they could have really expanded with a Dead Space 4. The disappearance of certain directors and studios kind of sunk that franchise, but it's sad because as far as I know, it sold pretty well, it was received well, and it has an identity. It is unique. Dead Space, Ishimura, Necromorphs, Isaac Clarke, you understand it. It is defined. It's not just another one of these games that feels the same, and we did see some of that disappear for the better this generation. The military shooter was something that was insanely popular in the 360 and PS3 generation, and it kind of went away. Now, I am bummed that the campaign shooter also kind of met its doom, and we do not see hardly any of that these days. But it was kind of par for the course. In order to dump the military shooter from releasing every month, we kind of had to lose some of the campaign shooters, which I understand, and it's a-okay. I do hope the single-player shooter returns with a vengeance, because I think unique weaponry, interesting environments, and quality, visceral gameplay is something that should succeed forever in the right amount, and we do see an ebb and flow as genres disappear and reappear. But how are you not going to make a BioShock? And I know that BioShock is going to be back. I know that they're going to give us BioShock 4, and maybe it goes to the underground or to space. I really believe it's going to go to the stars. As Mass Effect kind of fell off, and Starfield is still probably a few years away, there has not been really a space game that has done it super well. Prey was fun, but I think that was definitely a critical darling rather than a mainstream hit. And games like Anthem, failed miserably. So there's big room for a big space game to kind of set the tone, even though it is a frontier that is often explored. So I think BioShock 4 goes to space, but it's crazy that BioShock had a trilogy on the last gen, and nothing on this gen. In fact, across the board, trilogies were so popular and so pertinent to the success and the fun of the 360 PS3 era, and yet they absolutely disappeared this time around. We have some really nice one-offs. Horizon Zero Dawn is a great game. You know, there's continuations of franchises like Gears of War 5 that ended up being really, really cool. But it's very, very odd to me, and maybe it's just due to timing. Like I said, expanded budgets, expanded development time. We didn't have really any good trilogies this time around. Games like Splinter Cell and Prince of Persia just not there. Even Portal and Left 4 Dead, games that got double packs on the last platform, did not appear. And yes, Valve is kind of freaky and weird, and they did bring out Half-Life Alyx, but I long for them to return to traditional game development. Their titles are phenomenal. Where the heck is Half-Life 3? Where the heck is Portal 3? Now, we were never promised a Portal 3 or Left 4 Dead 3, but it makes sense. They could have evolved and expanded. And it blows my mind that rather than taking advantage of IP that already had strong success, we kind of went super generic. And a lot of it is due to the, hey, we need this game to be a 100-hour game, we need it to be a game as a service, and with Dead Space 4 and Portal 3, you can't really get all that time or money out of players. There's no microtransactions to be had, really. If there were, it would be a big problem. You know, it was a big problem for Evolve based on when it released. Evolve was absolutely slammed for utilizing less intense mechanics and ideas and microtransaction type methods than what we see today, but it was just before its time. Releasing today, it would seem like no big deal if the monster is $15. We paid $10 for a freaking skin! Anyhow, it is interesting to me that this generation relied very heavily on just kind of like about as safe of bets as we can get. And there were a few risks, like I mentioned, Horizon Zero Dawn I really, really appreciate. Some might argue that Sea of Thieves is a risk, although I don't like that game at all. The best games of this generation were Kratos, Drake, and Ellie, in my opinion. Right? They're titles that rely on old properties. So on one hand, we went generic with, you know, things that are surefire hits, which is fine. And on the other hand, we did not rely on some franchises that were previously successful. I feel like there were, you know, just not as many opportunities to deliver. Most of the franchises I mentioned are single-player exclusive adventures, right? Splinter Cell, BioShock, Prince of Persia, Dead Space, those, you know, Dead Space ended up having a cooperative component, and so did Splinter Cell, but for the most part, those are solitary experiences that are going to give you your 10 to 15 hours, and then you're going to be out, and I think that's the main reason why we miss them, why they're gone. I hope that we're able to return, because my favorite games all end up falling in that category. Single-player titles that tell a story, and that show the design chops of the design team, not you. You're not the one making the fun. I know so many players love to just make the fun themselves. And that's fine, but I would prefer to be taken on a journey, taken on a ride. I'm paying $60 to see something incredible. I don't want to generate my own memory. I can do that in real life. I'm going to a video game because it's magical, because it offers something that I couldn't create myself, because it does something that speaks to me, and it shows a way, a world, an idea, a mechanic that is so well crafted, so polished and put together. So, what is going to happen? No real new IP that made a big mark this generation. I would say, you know, Horizon was a nice one, but things like Days Gone seem to be not all that exciting. I don't, you know, I mean, maybe they'll make another Sea of Thieves, but to me that has no defining characteristic or even imagery. Bloodborne is very cool, but that borrows heavily from Dark Souls. So where are the new franchises? If you look at the last generation, it was remarkable. The Arkham franchise, the BioShock franchise, the Gears of War franchise, the Dead Space, the Mass Effect, all of these games, Dragon Age, they all saw the light of day last time around, and they became brilliant touchstones for our gaming passions, and yet we have nearly no new entries of that style. So I hope that in this next generation, even though budgets will be soaring, and even though the desire will be to scope out to a level that I think is silly, not every person in the world needs to play every game. It's just not possible, and the dilution ends up being destructive. But I hope we get some cool new IP. I hope we get some cool new characters and some cool new franchises that we can really rely on to be epic and to carry us through the generation. Wasn't it a fantastic feeling to see games like Portal and BioShock and Dead Space really just like work their way deep into your mind and heart? You got the merch, you got the games, you grabbed the collector's editions. It was special to have these new ideas and these new franchises that you never did see before, and now here they are. becoming maybe one of your all-time favorites. What the heck did that this generation? Not very much. I mean, there are phenomenal games, ones that are remarkable in so many ways. Like I mentioned, stuff like God of War, absolutely fantastic, right? Even the Assassin's Creed kind of saw a revolution, if you will, as they reinvented themselves and improved, according to most people. But nothing really bold and new. Nothing really big, except for the multiplayer hits. And that's fine, you know, for the Fortnite fans and the Apex fans and all the BR fans, but there's nothing that screams like, hey, this really is the new main dude, because it's more about the player than it is about what's put on the screen. And I guess that's okay. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not what I like. It's not what I want. It's not how I play my games, and it's not how I hope this next generation goes. We're already starting off with a lot of familiar faces, right? Gears Tactics on launch day, Spider-Man on launch day. You got a little bit of a, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn in your future. It's all kind of coming back. And back is not bad, because as I mentioned, there's certain franchises that I wish would have come back this time around, and they just didn't. They just didn't. But I will say that a healthy mix of new IP and familiar faces is mission critical. And I feel like they struck a very poor balance this generation. A very poor balance indeed. And I hope they're able to deliver a better balance, because whatever they did, you know, there are some new, there are some old. I feel like it was a very generic generation. I feel like it was very low-key in many ways. Some very great games, you know, some ones that I'll remember forever, some of my favorites of all time. And some fantastic moments, of course, and some new genres that redefined what a video game could be. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, nothing. There's no, the imagination, I guess, is what maybe feels a bit gone. The imagination feels a bit behind. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting. You know, the focus is obviously on cross-gen and performance power right now. I read all these Xbox previews, and they're enamored with the fact that you can run Final Fantasy 15 from 2016 at a better frame rate, which to me is just psychotic. Who's dropping $500 to relive the past? I hope not you. Definitely not me. And I know that's all they got right now, because there aren't hardly any launch titles, and the idea of a full-on next generation is silly when companies have invested so much money in the current, and there are so many players and such a base to really hit. But come on, dudes. Come on. If you don't take a leap forward, you'll never make progress. So take a risk, find a balance, and destroy our expectations in a good way. Like Behemoth absolutely took down those hunters and swallowed them whole. That is a sweet, sweet, street-sweeping evisceration station, and Evolve is still good. Evolve 2, maybe, I'll take it. You know, I mean, goodness gracious. I'm not the biggest fan of replaying things. I don't really like, you know, retreads, but if any game is going to get a retread, I'll take it. Oh, the only game I want a next-gen upgrade for is Evolve, because it's so darn good. And because it's, I think, one of the coolest ideas to ever come about. But Evolve 2 would be so sweet, and I'd love to know what games you're looking forward to in the next cycle. So let me know in the comments down below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, and love that we keep Evolve rolling into 2020 and into 2021. We're getting close, baby. We're getting close. Until that time, though, stay safe, stay healthy, stay smart out there. I love you so much. Drink so much. Until next time, we will see you all later.